In this week's EV news, Onto enters administration after failing to secure rescue funding. IONITY announces more ultra-rapid charging coming to the UK. Volkswagen are going to ditch the ID and GTX brands in favour of some classic ones. Midlands councils are given over £39 million in funding to install chargers. And BP Pulse opened the UK's largest EV charging hub at the NEC. Welcome back to another EV news. There's been a slight break in the schedule recently. Things have been a bit all over the place. We've been enjoying the warm weather and what have you. So we're a little bit out of sync, but we're going to try and get back on top. As always, do like this video, and if you're new here, subscribe so that you don't miss out on the next one. But without further ado, let's get on with the news, shall we? Some sad news first of all from Onto, the short-term EV rental subscription service that I used back in 2021 when I had an Audi e-tron closely followed by a Q4 e-tron. They were placed into administration on the 11th of September after failing to obtain rescue funding. You might remember I mentioned back in July that they were in a bit of trouble when Legal & General, one of their main shareholders, announced that they wouldn't be providing them with further funding. Falling EV residuals and borrowing secured against the value of their fleet have contributed to their downfall. The administrators are saying that for now, things are going to continue as normal. So if you have a car through Onto, it should be largely business as usual. Although I think if I was relying on it as my main source of transport, I would probably be looking at arrangements for an alternative should they suddenly decide that at the end of one of the given 30-day rental periods, they want the car back. An email has been sent to customers confirming that the company is in administration and also gathering interest from those customers from any that might actually be interested in purchasing the car that they're currently renting. So there could well be another boatload of cheap EVs heading for the used market. What that'll do is I think it's fairly predictable what that might do to EV values should we see another glut of used EVs prematurely hitting the market. Instavolt tweeted that Onto customers would now need to pay using their own credit or debit card for charging rather than using the included RFID card that they have from Onto. An expected move, I guess, given that if you were a supplier to a company in administration and you continue just allowing them to build up debt with you, you're never going to see that money. But they did later delete that tweet because quite a few people were kicking off about it, saying, well, that's pretty unreasonable that the moment they've been announced they're in administration, you're straight on it with telling us we can't use our charging cards. So it wasn't the best from a PR point of view from Instavolt, so they did delete that. So I don't know if that means the official stance has changed, or if there are Onto customers out there that are now finding that their charging cards have been cancelled. So if you've got a car from Onto and you know the answer to that question, please let me know in the comments, because since Instavolt retracted that tweet, it's become a bit unclear what the situation might be. I know there's going to be some customers out here that are going to be a little bit annoyed because if charging is included in their package and they're finding they can't actually use that, then that isn't ideal. But then I think you need to understand that there are bigger problems than just your access to charging. But it does suck because you're paying a top dollar for your subscription with Onto, and that inclusive charging is a big part of that. But all in all, it's really, really sad news. Onto was a great way into EVs for many, many people who could try one on a fairly risk-free basis. And actually, you could hop between them in a fairly risk-free manner as well. You had to pay for like collection and delivery, but you could change car quite regularly. It certainly helped me see that the Audi Q4 e-tron was not a car that I was interested in the slightest. And I think without having one for as long as I did, for sort of 30 days that I had one, a quick test drive probably wouldn't have let me see that I wasn't as keen on it. So Onto definitely very, very useful in that regard. It does raise some questions, if you ask me though, about the viability of subscription services like this where they provide that short-term commitment. Kazoo ended their subscription service last year after failing to make a success of it. Several of the manufacturer-backed schemes seem to now be pushing for a longer and longer term commitment. So they've gone from like maybe 30 days to 3 months or 6 months or a year. And so that model, I think, where a very short term seems to be the bit that's really hard to make money at. It seems to make it really quite expensive to run. Elmo are still around for now, probably Onto's main competitor that also offer an electric-only subscription product. They're actually owned by BCA these days, British Car Auctions. And perhaps this closeness that they therefore have to the heart of the motor trade, because you have sort of BCA, We Buy Any Car, and Cinch all in the same group, and that makes them a bit of a powerhouse in the motor trade. So Elmo being in that group of companies might help them stay ahead of these economic conditions we're seeing. It might mean that they're uniquely placed in the market to be more successful than Onto were, but I guess only time will tell. Next up, IONITY have announced that they're going to open 33 new sites in the UK, massively expanding their ultra-rapid charging presence here. Partnering with Village Hotels, they're promising to deliver 380 high-power chargers at the 33 sites. The press release says that nearly every hub at the 33 locations will open with up to 12 ultra-rapid charging points on day one. While all of them are expected to be operational by the end of 2024, a phased opening approach will see the first sites go live as early as April. In addition to rooms, Village Hotels offer leisure facilities such as a gym and pool, pub and grill serving food and drinks, meeting and event space, co-working space, and a Starbucks coffee shop. Now, new infrastructure is always really good news, right? And it's always welcome. I've always said that. Let me start by getting that out of the way. I'm always happy for new infrastructure. However, this particular partnership is an absolutely terrible idea. Hotels are not the place to be installing rapid chargers. They are not service stations, and I'm not quite sure why they want to pretend to be. What hotels need is tens, if not hundreds, of destination chargers. Every single person staying overnight at a hotel that drives an EV must agree with me that the most convenient thing you could possibly be able to do at those locations is plug your car in when you arrive and go to bed. Let the car charge slowly overnight, not worry about whether you're hogging a charger because there's loads of them, and a rapid, or even more so an ultra rapid, is not the way to do that. But I just don't think anybody seems to really understand this. I saw screenshots of some comments from someone from IONITY on LinkedIn saying, well, you plug in when you arrive, and by the time you've checked in and got the key for your room, your car will be ready to charge, well, it'll be fully charged and you can just move it. And it's like, that is not a thing. I mean, typically, right, especially if you're staying away with business, right, you turn up at a hotel at about 7 p.m, along with absolutely everybody else that's staying there that night on that random Tuesday, and you're all checking in at the same time. So if you're all in an EV, you're not all going to be able to just plug into the Rapid, sort your room out and stuff, and then move your car. That's not going to happen. But if there were destination chargers covering the whole car park, which, let's be honest, they're talking about putting 6 to 12 350 kilowatt chargers in these car parks, you could easily cover the entire car park with destination chargers. Now, or maybe have a couple of Rapids for the passing trade, but the vast majority of people are going to want to charge on a destination charger basis where you plug in and you forget about it. And I don't really understand where this notion comes from that anybody would actually really want to do anything different. But hotels seem to just completely ignore this and buy into the mindset that Rapids are the answer. See also Premier Inn, who are rolling out rapid charging from Genie Point at a load of their properties. So instead of 30 or 60 7 kilowatt chargers at a Premier Inn location, you have 1 or 2 50 kilowatt Rapids from Genie Point, which might work, probably won't. It's nonsense. I don't even buy that passing trade will do them much good. A 350 kilowatt rapid charger, like we're talking about here, will charge the newest crop of ultra rapid charging EVs stupidly quickly. So you're not going to be able to go and do a workout at the gym, or even, stop there for lunch, let's be honest, because your car's going to be charged in like 15 minutes and it's going to be time to move on. Which is great if you're at a service station, but why the benefit you'd get from being at a hotel location is it's baffling. I don't get it. Rapid chargers in service stations, destination chargers at destinations. That's the way forward. There's no doubt about that. So, as I said, I welcome IONITY expanding their UK network. I'm just gobsmacked that Village Hotels think they're doing the right thing by their customers in doing so. Yeah, they might be getting some rent from IONITY for the space in their car parks, but does that really trump providing decent service to your overnight guests, who should be your core customer base? And instead you're catering for people that are on a long journey that are going to stop at your hotel for 15-20 minutes to charge the car, and you'll get a few pence from IONITY for that. I don't get it. I'm sure you'll have an opinion on this. Let me know in the comments what you think, and maybe I'm missing something here, but none of this stacks up in my mind. And we're very quickly getting towards the point where we're installing the wrong chargers in the wrong locations. It's nonsense, and yet these companies, they're pouring millions into this, right? This isn't going to be a cheap endeavour. IONITY are going to put a fortune into this. And Village Hotels, well, they're largely going to be stuck with it. And when it starts to negatively impact the customer base, they're probably going to be locked into a contract where they can't do anything about it. Anyway, that's enough ranting about rapid chargers at hotels. Volkswagen have announced that the ID and GTX brands will be no more, ditching them for more recognisable names from the past. Speaking to electrifying.com, VW CEO Thomas Schaefer said that definitely the names will carry on in the future are Golf, Tiguan and GTI. That's a given. The others we'll look at on a case-by-case basis. There will be a new Golf, and it will be a true Golf. ID3 will run out by then, and there will be minimal overlap between the two. ID3 was a name that was necessary to differentiate it from the internal combustion models, but we probably don't need that going into the future, he said. GTI and R will be the badging for performance models, two-wheel and four-wheel drive respectively, just like they are at the moment for the combustion range. GTX, which is the name currently given to the performance-oriented ID models, will also be retired. I think this is a really, really good move from Volkswagen. They have so much brand heritage, and their model range as is so strong that trying to replace it with the ID range was always going to be a losing battle. It does suggest that the whole ID thing has been a little bit of a flop though. If we tie back to the story a few months ago that they were seeing a bit of a decline in sales and having to wind down production a little bit, I think they should have probably went with an electric Golf, etc. right from the start. Like they did with the e-Golf, and then they went backwards with it, saying that the ID range was the future. But what do you think? But what do you think? Is losing this dedicated model range and merging EVs into the core VW lineup and going back to calling them Golf, Tiguan, etc. the way forward? I certainly think it is, and I think it could transform the way people look at their EVs. But I'm sure you'll have a different opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments. Used bargain of the week now, where I share a used electric bargain from Autotrader that's caught my eye. How about then a Citroen EC4 for less than 17 grand? It uses the same battery and drivetrain as the rest of the Stellantis stuff, you know, the E208, E2008, Corsa, Mokka, all that stuff. But it has that lovely soft Citroen ride and looks pretty cool as well, if you ask me. Certainly very striking, especially compared with some of the more mundane stuff in that range. And it is well reviewed as being much more comfortable, smoother riding than a lot of it. So I think if comfort is high up your agenda, the EC4 is where you want to be. It's absolutely my favourite, at least, of all of this Stellantis stuff. I think it looks like pretty good value for money as well. The Shine Plus spec, which is pretty high up the range, at less than 17 grand. I don't think you can go wrong, can you? What do you think? Does the EC4 tickle your fancy, or is there a reason why you wouldn't go anywhere near it? I know the winter range thing is always what hangs over all of these 50 kilowatt hour Stellantis cars, but I guess if it fits within your needs, then it'll be absolutely fine. Let me know what you think. Almost £40 million is to be distributed between 13 councils in the Midlands to set up EV charging. The area will need 17,500 new charging points by the end of 2025 to meet the growing EV market, transport body Midlands Connect have said. The money is a vital step to improving the regional infrastructure, and it's coming from the government's Local Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Fund. 2 partnerships have been created between councils in the region to work on the project. Nottinghamshire, Derby, Derbyshire, Nottingham City and Staffordshire are formed one of those groups. Lincolnshire, Herefordshire, Leicestershire, Rutland County, Shropshire, Stoke-on-Trent, Telford and Wrekin and Warwickshire County Councils are part of the second partnership. Now, it's always really good news, if you ask me, to hear of more public charging coming in the pipeline. There's very little detail about what the councils are actually looking to spend this money on yet. Whether it will be rapids in stupid places or lamppost charging or what it will be remains to be seen. So I'm hoping details will emerge very shortly on what the councils are going to do with this 40 million quid, but it's very, very good to hear that they're at least thinking about it, and I think it shows that more and more local authorities are finally waking up to the fact they need to do something, and the central government funding is there for them to do so, so all they need to do is actually get on with it. I'll keep an eye on that. I'll bring you more news about what they're actually doing with that money going forward. And finally, BP Pulse have announced the opening of their Gigahub, the biggest EV charging hub in the country so far, at the NEC near Birmingham. It's capable of charging 180 vehicles at once, making it the largest in the country so far by far. And if you want to learn more about the Gigahub, you should watch this next video.